Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 70. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Wednesday, Steelers Nation, as the Pittsburgh Steelers get ready for their regular season finale in Week 18 against the Cleveland Browns, which we know will take place Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and as I posted last, I don't know about you, Tuesday night during a regular week in the NFL season, to me, is kind of the best night that there is, because there's not as much going on. You only really have the Mike Tomlin stuff during the day, and you have all the game film in, the all 22 and all like that. I'm like a pig in slop, really, because I have the all 22 running for most of the night there. I'm able to take some notes. I'm able to go meticulously through it, and not as many distractions. So I'm probably always in a better mood on Wednesday morning than any other day, because I thoroughly enjoy what I get to do on Tuesday night. So happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Well, I think the NFL is in a slightly better mood, but still a tense one, coming off obviously what happened on Monday night, the first time that Dave and I are getting to talk about this publicly, our first podcast since what happened to Pittsburgh native and Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin in the Monday night game against the Bengals. As you guys probably know by now, tackled T. Higgins with 5:58 left in the first quarter. Hamlin stood up and then collapsed, needed CPR, and then was taken to a Cincinnati hospital where he remains in critical condition. But the reports from, I believe, Hamlin's uncle and some other reports indicate that he's showing some signs of improvement, still sedated, still, again, critical condition. So very tense moments here, but some early encouraging signs on Damar Hamlin. Obviously, the outpouring of support for him has been fantastic. And while his Buffalo Bills teammates and that community has been affected the most, I think Pittsburgh certainly feeling the weight of that as well. Again, Hamlin, a Pittsburgh native, went to Central Catholic High School, played his college ball at Pitt, and Mike Tomlin, speaking at his Tuesday press conference, talked about knowing Hamlin since he was 12 years old. They've had a long relationship. So obviously Buffalo feeling the weight of that most immediately, but the Pittsburgh community feeling that as well. And our thoughts and prayers with Hamlin and his family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some positive from what I'm gathering on Twitter on this Wednesday morning on kind of how he's responded to things overnight and on. So I don't want to get into details, because I don't want to say what, pass on something that might be incorrect or whatnot, but it sounds encouraging right now. And as you mentioned, and look, I mean, you go on Instagram or Twitter and all like that, and he's got a lot of ties to a lot of guys on the Steelers roster, obviously Pitt guys, and it looks like several other guys may have worked out with him, through the process and all like that. So especially with him being a Pittsburgh kid, and Mike Tomlin. I like how Mike Tomlin addressed it yesterday, and I think there's a little bit of discussion maybe to be had there. Of course, most teams, from what I understand, around the NFL canceled their media sessions, did they not?
I believe most did, yes.
And, obviously the Steelers and Mike Tomlin didn't, and I think that maybe surprised a lot of people, but I look at it at this after the fact, that Mike Tomlin doesn't like things to change during a work week. He likes the continuity aspect of it. I don't think him doing that was in any, or should in any way be considered disrespectful. No. I just think that he wants the continuity of the NFL season. Now he did address Hamlin's situation, obviously, during his press conference, as you would expect he would. But he didn't take many questions after the fact. I would imagine that behind closed doors, they're having quite a few conversations about what happened to Hamlin, and getting past it not only on a personal level, but as far as a team level as well too. So I imagine that would be some conversation be had there, but that's how I probably understand Mike Tomlin handling this.
I think so as well. I think at least players expect them to speak today. No changes to the schedule. I think that's some of the continuity that Tomlin wants to keep, especially in a very critical must-win Week 18. I think one reason why Tomlin also wanted to speak was to share his thoughts, because he's a guy that knows Hamlin extremely well. Wanted to offer that perspective. Didn't want to answer a lot of questions about it, but wanted to at least make that address to the media, which of course we wrote about, and there's a lot of ties there. Ties to Sean McDermott, the Bills head coach. They were teammates together at William and Mary. That's been well documented. And Tomlin said he's reached out to Sean McDermott to offer any support, any help that he potentially can. But I was kind of had the game on in the background whenever it was happening because I was working. And then what got my attention, obviously, because I was kind of not paying attention the whole time, was whenever I saw the reports that there was CPR being performed on the field. And I'm going numb right now just thinking about that. Just when you see that, you sit there and go, what in the world is going on? What is happening? And it was just so scary, so tense, and obviously still, a tense situation for Hamlin's condition right now, but just words you didn't think you would read about on a football field.
Yeah, I mean, look, a freak, just kind of a freak incident there. And, you go back to just kind of the, we just not more, a little more than a week ago, we're talking about Franco Harris, and him suddenly passing. It's just another. You get my age, and you see it, some of the things and the tragedies and how quickly lives can change. And this is just yet another reminder of. I mean, this is a game. They're blessed to get paid. To play a game, and a lot of risk come with that. And I think you kind of get comfortable as a aspect. That's why I really enjoyed Ryan Clark and, the guys on the network, they keep saying, well, let's go to commercials, no new news. And it was finally good for them, I think, to get that away from the play-by-play guys over to the studio, to have guys like Van Pelt and Ryan Clark discuss it, and a former player specifically, and someone like Clark who has been on the field for a lot of scary situations, his own included, and then obviously the Willis McGahee hit, several years ago. So he has firsthand perspective of how that can be viewed. And it was, I thought once they moved that from on site to in the studio, I thought it was handled a lot better there, or at least the discussion was able to move on a lot better there. But going back to kind of what I said, it's just a reminder that, we take for granted the risk that I tell you, Alex, there are almost every game that I turn on nowadays and watch. I think to myself, man, how do some of these guys, some of these hits, these guys take, and even you go back to that Chargers Colts game couple Monday nights ago, that big hit in that game that ended up in the ejection. How in the heck did that the player on the other team to get up from that hit?
Right.
And obviously the focus on concussions and the whole Tua thing this year, and and that ended up being on the same field, I think, too. At least one of those hits, against Cincinnati was, and all like that. And you constantly flash back to what happened to Ryan Shazier, several years ago.
Also in Cincinnati.
Right. Also, crazy enough there. But it's just I think a life reminder, a reset in your own head that, your life can change on a dime, period. Whether it be impacted for the rest of your life or your life end, don't take for granted things in your life, especially like, what we do. We're blessed to do what we do. I'm sure those athletes feel blessed to do what they do, but it's just another reminder that how quickly things can change.
Absolutely. If there is any sort of good to come out of this horrible situation, it is. I just checked the GoFundMe that Damar Hamlin had set up a while back for his toy drive fund. It's already over $6 million. And that was the original goal of way back when of $2,500. So I think they've surpassed expectations there. But yeah, still very scary overall. I thought, as you mentioned, what Ryan Clark said, that perspective was really important to have. And I thought, ESPN and Clark and SVP in particular handled a difficult situation extremely well. I thought Clark's message was important. And, what Booger McFarland said, and just trying to put all the focus on Hamlin and making sure that he was okay. So big credit to the doctors and paramedics and whole medical staff both on the field and the hospital right now. It seems like in the moment that they've saved Damar Hamlin's life, and they're certainly heroes. But yeah, it's just a situation you just did not think you would be sitting there watching.
Right, and look, I mean, it was both teams. Everybody in that stadium was shook. So I think the right decision obviously was made to suspend that game. I who knows when they're going to, make it. Does it matter? I mean, I guess it does to some degree because it's an important game. But my whole thought on this at this point is they'll figure it out.
Right, and that's the stance I take. They'll figure it out. At some point, a decision will have to be made, but it's still secondary right now.
Right, and when they figure it out, it'll appease some people and it'll make some people mad, like everything else. So I don't really have anything extra to add to any of that. Ideas on how to handle that or what they'll figure it out. That's my thought process right now.
Sure. Now, while football is certainly secondary to the health of Damar Hamlin, and I don't, whatever the NFL decides in terms of if this game is going to be played, when it's going to be played, fine with me. There is at least a thought there for Steelers fans because the Bills are slated to play the Patriots on Sunday. Now, the league has said the Bengals-Bills game will not resume anytime this week, if it resumes at all. They've just kind of left things open-ended. But of course, that Bills-Patriots game important and critical to Pittsburgh's playoff chances. So as of right now, I assume that game's going to still go on at its normally scheduled time, but we'll be watching that again, all secondary to Damar Hamlin, his health and that whole situation, the well-being of him, the mental health of the Bills team right now. All things kind of up in the air, but do want to at least note that from the football perspective, the Steelers fans perspective, just knowing that's a game that, of course, whenever it takes place, we'll be watching.
Right. And, I think even some of the 506 Maps who releases the television coverage maps every week, tweeted out this morning that they don't have an update yet because there's still a lot of things. There's still a lot of uncertainty. I don't think they've even announced yet because I look forward again this morning who the announcers for the CBS game for the Steelers and Browns will be,
Okay.
I mean, but it is, here we are Wednesday and most of the teams will have to release their first injury reports today. So I would think there would be some sort of finality, at least on games for, the scheduled week 18 games by this afternoon, meaning that if there was if they were going to push back week 18 or whatever, I would kind of think that we'd know it by today.
Right. We'll just have to wait and see. The NFL yesterday said that no week 18 games had been changed. I think some people interpreted that as saying that that's locked in. I didn't see it that way. Just them saying at this point, there's not been any changes at all to the week 18 schedule. But currently, the way they set things up, that was on Monday before the Hamlin incident occurred, that the Steelers game, the Dolphins game, and the Bills game would all take place at 1 p.m. Eastern time, all at the same time to maximize competitiveness and the interest in it all. And so we'll assume for now that's where it stands until we're told otherwise.
Right.
But again, the focus on Damar Hamlin. And I speak about the football part a bit more just because we're hearing some of the more encouraging news on Damar Hamlin. And it seems to be a better situation than it was, 24 hours ago. So again, don't want to take away what the focus really is, and that's on the scary moment that happened with Damar Hamlin. For whatever it's worth, I just take a little bit of comfort in everything's case by case, but a very similar situation happened with Chris Pronger back in 1998, where he took a puck to the chest and I think had the same issue that it appears that Hamlin's dealing with right now with his heart. And Pronger came back to play and have a full career. Now, obviously, the focus for Hamlin is on just having a full recovery and a normal life again. But if there's any sort of comfort there, these things, as rare as they are, have happened in sports before and have had good outcomes. And we certainly hope the same for Damar Hamlin.
Absolutely. Well put.
All right, Dave, we'll move on here with some conversation about Mike Tomlin's press conference on the football side of things. That's where Tomlin wanted to keep it whenever he spoke with reporters yesterday. Some interesting comments. Well, let's start with the injury situation first, and a little bit of updates here saying that James Pierre, the cornerback James Pierre, is in concussion protocol. His status up in the air just based on the protocol of it all, but also struck an optimistic tone on linebacker Miles Jack, who left the game against the Ravens with a groin injury, and Minkah Fitzpatrick ankle, who played through that one, basically saying that he's optimistic on both Jack and Minkah Fitzpatrick playing in the finale.
Minkah, I bet Minkah was real sore.
Still is, I'm sure.
And still is, and probably going to be on the injury report, right? So, and look, even past the ankle injury that he had in that game, the final play on that interception, Levi Wallace is coming across thinking he's going to pick off that pass. Those two collide on the final play of the game, and I think Minkah kind of got the worst of that collision as well too. So I would expect Minkah to be. It's probably going to be a long injury report to start the week. Larry Ogunjobi probably going to be on there with the toe. Miles Jack with the groin. It's probably going to be 6 or 7 long with some not injury related rest type situations there. But as the week goes on here, I would think the ones to kind of watch is, Trey Norwood obviously missed the game with a hamstring last week. He'll obviously probably be one to watch. Minkah, even though it sounds kind of positive with him, he'll be one to watch. Pierre, obviously, with being in protocol, will be one. And then Miles Jack's been battling this groin, for a while, be interesting to see how he makes it through the week. So I would think those are kind of the 4 prime candidates there, barring, and who knows, there might be a surprise of somebody else on there today.
Yeah, when you have Steelers Ravens, usually there's a couple of surprise bumps and bruises that show up there, but I think Pittsburgh will be playing their greatest hits on the injury report with Ogunjobi, with Miles Jack, with the names that you just mentioned. We'll get the first official report here later on Wednesday. We'll move now to Tomlin's comments on DeMarvin Leal, who played an important role in this game. Pretty heavy snaps in that 4-4 front that Pittsburgh utilized quite a bit to match the big personnel of the Baltimore Ravens with their fullback and Patrick Ricard, their multiple tight ends, etc. And it was a funny comment from Mike Tomlin, basically saying DeMarvin Leal does not even realize he's a defensive lineman, that he moves like a guy that's doesn't play D-line, and he hangs out with the DB sometimes, and just said that he has kind of those elite athletic traits to make him more than your typical defensive lineman.
I tried to focus on him and going back through what, he's on his feet some, and obviously down as a down lineman quite a bit in this game. What was your thoughts on his overall play of Leal, and where are we now on Leal and what he is and what he isn't?
I think the jury's still it's still too early to judge what Leal is or isn't. I think he's still kind of a big lump of clay, and the team's trying to figure out exactly what he is and who he is and where to play him, because he's not really been used as a defensive lineman. Tomlin's called him that, but he's kind of been more that hybrid edge type of guy when TJ Watt got hurt and some of the specialty packages right now. I think he's a good athlete. I think he plays with energy. I like what he did in the preseason. I think in season it's been kind of up and down. He's got good effort and runs hard with the football, but there really isn't much of a pass rush plan right now. He's got to improve his anchor, and I just kind of struggle to find out where he fits consistently. It's kind of like he's in a little bit of everything kind of guy, almost in a weird way, the Connor Hayward of this defense, where the size kind of puts you in a weird spot. Are you a really interior lineman? Are you an edge guy? Not really sure where you fit. You're a good athlete. You're kind of a football player, but you're still trying to figure out all those things. What'd
you think about him? His play specifically, let's say, as a pass rusher in that game, because look, I'm struggling with him right now.
Right, he's not gotten pressure this year, despite being an athlete. I mean, there is no pass rush plan, and he doesn't have a go-to move and those kinds of things. And so, really, it's a lot of energy, but it's not a lot of production.
And the reason I'm kind of I hearkened myself back last night to Chris Jones during the pre-draft process. I watched, I never saw it with Chris Jones, and I'm not translating that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to better my process here when it comes to him specifically, and we've had a recent conversation about him about what is he, and I wonder where's this praise coming from, this specific praise coming from Mike Tomlin on Tuesday about Leal.
Well, I think he's right about the traits. I think Leal's traits are interesting. It's kind of what's gotten him drafted. I mean, he doesn't run like a lineman. He runs hard. He's a really good athlete. He's comfortable in space. He drops into coverage. He even dropped into coverage in that Ravens game early in that one. So there's some different things you can do with him that makes him different than a D lineman. But yeah, I think to your point, it's where do you play and where does he fit? He's kind of been that tweener so far, but I think he was kind of a raw guy coming out. Pittsburgh's asked him to do different things. I'm sure they did not envision him being a stand-up outside linebacker in specialty packages. The Watt injury changes the whole equation. So they've kind of messed with his role and probably his weight some this year. So I want to see him in year two. That's going to be a big judge for me as year two, kind of a year in the system, some time to breathe, maybe figure out exactly what your role is going to be. Because I think year one, it's kind of been just making the pieces fit however we need them to fit as we kind of try to get through the season.
Right. And where I'm struggling, with him right now, because I mean, there's a lot of athleticism. He chased the ball real well on one of those out to the outside, the athleticism, and he got a backside kind of untouched, I think, kind of tackle coming down the line and all like that. You'd like to see that if he's going to be an edge and all like that. I'm with you. The pass rush, it's not refined at all. I hardly see him making an impact in that, to be honest with you. And I thought the run anchoring can be better as well too.
Sure.
I think year two is going to tell us a lot. Before we even get to year two, though, I would like hopefully Omar Khan or Mike Tomlin or whoever's on the stand to be to be asked, what is he?
Right. That's my question. I don't think he's not going to be a Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, 3-tech playing down to down. I don't see him in that role consistently as a pass rusher and third and long. Sure, they've used him there. I don't think he's that guy every single snap though.
Yeah, I don't either. I have a hard time envisioning him playing Cam Hayward's Stephon Tuitt like football.
I think, and I said this before, it's not the first time I'm saying this. I think he's a big edge. I think he's like a big Bud Dupree type of guy that's going to set the edge. Is going to be a matchup nightmare on tight ends. They don't drop their outside backers in the coverage too much, and Leal is just athletic enough to be able to do that. If you drop his weight some, you can probably do that. Can he walk out and displace? That's a little bit dicier, but I think you drop him to 270, if that whatever his weight is now, drop him to 270, right. Kind of what his college weight was. He's a big edge, and then you can run him interior sub package pass rusher on third down if you want to. I think that's where he fits best. I don't think he'll ever have a consistent role. I don't think he'll ever be that every down guy. I think you take advantage of the athleticism, the versatility that he's going to offer, the athleticism he offers, as opposed to trying to box him into being one thing.
Wonder if you can drop him down to about 268 and send him off into the offseason with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's an edge. I think Bud Dupree was a heavy guy. He played like 270, at least early in the Steelers career. And Steelers big edge guys do well. By the way, I only have DeMarvin Leal down for one pressure all season. So again, the pass rush juice.
So I'm not mad. Well, what you're saying is I'm okay where I'm at on him.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in alignment on that. I think if we both believe the vision of being that big edge. And again, I think Tomlin's accurate because he's a pretty unique guy. But I think just trying to make him a 3-tech his whole career is not going to be the right approach.
The other young kid that Mike Tomlin talked about, Mark Robinson.
Yeah, a lot of talk about Mark Robinson, who, just like Leal, was playing in that 4-4 package. And we can talk about he kind of played over Devin Bush, but it was in that specific role, that specific package. It was kind of more Spillane, Miles Jack, in my view, playing over Devin Bush in that sense of it all. But Robinson playing a lot and talked about the physicality, and Mike Tomlin said, quote, he's a guy that likes physical confrontation. That's the one component of his game that's never been in question, but then did go on to talk about some of the things I mentioned earlier in the season. Guy that was raw, 1 year at the position, a former running back in college. And so going to need some patience to kind of learn and sit and watch a little bit. And now he's getting to play. And you still see him trying to figure things out on the fly, play action, reading your keys, things like that. But whenever he sees it, Dave, and he hits it hard.
I put this on Twitter last night after going through the tape. Mark Robinson wants to make all the tackles.
And he does that a lot. Mission accomplished quite a bit.
But within that, he tries to. I think at times he tries to do too much, and we've seen this defense at times get gashed because, and players after the fact saying, "Do your job." I think that's what Mike Tomlin was getting at in the press conference. He's still very, very raw, trying to learn the position, and I think it's a situation, at least at the end of this year, right now, where you'd rather say "whoa" than sick 'em, right? Mm-hmm. And because he tried. There were a couple plays I think where he might have been out of gap and got away with it, but I mean, he is not afraid to stick his face in the fan, period. He's not afraid of contact. He chases well. I think you had the clip of the all 22 of him being on the other side of the field in coverage on the big, one of those runs. It might've been the longest run by Dobbins or whatnot in that game. And he wasn't going to make that tackle unless maybe he made it down at the 1 yard line, but he's giving the effort all the way from the opposite side of the field. So that's a positive in and of itself. I thought it was a great game for him. I just think that I think the reason Mike Tomlin downplayed it was because of some of those things in that game.
Sure, I think you're right. My description of Mark Robinson is all gas, no brakes. He doesn't know when to ever hit the brake pedal. He's just accelerator, consistently. And there's something you want to harness. And as Tomlin says, as you said, you rather say "whoa" than sick him. To me, it's less about even him not doing his job and trying to do too much as it is he just doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Right.
He's still trying to figure it out and figure out what his job is, and reading keys and being assignment sound and watching tape, understanding tendencies, all things that will come with time. But the baseline level of traits and mentality he has. And again, another guy that you're really excited to watch next summer. I know in training camp next summer, I'm already noting it, and I'm sure I'll get a million questions today about it. How does Mark Robinson look? Does he make that jump? And you would expect a guy that was raw, didn't play a lot in college, to really have an accelerated jump in year number 2.
Look, some of the traits he has, you can't teach. Now he's just got to learn how to play linebacker.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a great baseline to work with. And I think although he is raw, he doesn't look like a guy that was playing running back 2 years ago. I think he's a guy that's generally pretty sound and smart and heady. And yes, he has to work on reading keys, but he's not egregiously out of position or egregiously looking lost like you might think somebody in his position would.
Right. And I wonder on that play over to the left side that he actually made, I think, a tackle for no gain or for a loss or whatnot. Robert Spillane says something to him, I think. And I almost wonder if is one of those, okay, you made that play, but you weren't supposed to be there, or and it's hard to kind of analyze it because it did kind of spill to the outside there, and Spillane, I mean, and Robinson was there to make the play, but there were a couple instances where I said, man, it kind of looks like he might have been in the wrong gap.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. I mean, I know that Spillane was having to show him a lot to, how to shift against motions, and there's a lot of that the Baltimore does, and so he's kind of trying to play traffic cop and help put that guy in position. But you would expect that when you got a veteran like Spillane next to a rookie like Robinson. Again, what it speaks to me overall is, like we talked about with Kenny Pickett, as Steelers, you're defined by what you do against the Ravens, and you look at this game and say, this team leaned on DeMarvin Leal. They leaned on Mark Robinson. They kind of shied away from Devin Bush. They made Malik Reed inactive. And so what does that say about those guys? It says they like the traits, the foundation of Robinson, the foundation of Leal, and it's more of a statement against the likes of Devin Bush, who basically would not have played in this game had it not been for Miles Jack dealing with that groin injury again. Right. Bush had no role. And then Malik Reed, of course, being inactive in both Ravens games kind of tells you what they think about Malik Reed and that trade they made for him.
Well, here's what we know. Because of the numbers, Mark Robinson is going to dress against the Browns. Right. And because the Browns are going to probably try to lean on the run, we might see a nice selection of Mark Robinson snaps again. We'll see. But it would be a heck of a steal if they could turn this kid into 5, 6, 7 year starter.
Right. Now, I think to be clear in terms of what Robinson's role was, and I want to pull up the exact charting that I have here, so just give me 1 second to do that. He was playing in that one specific specialty package. And so basically the Ravens would have to be in one receiver sets, 13 personnel, 22 personnel. The Browns can go heavy. They're probably a little less heavy in that sense, the way the Baltimore is. So, Robinson only played against 21 and 22 personnel in this Ravens game. That's when they employed their 4-4. So if the Browns go really heavy like that, there could be a role. If not, you may see less Robinson, but his play may try to have his team looking to find ways to play him in base. We'll see. But just to be clear, that 4-4 is a specialty thing that was used against Carolina with their multiple offensive linemen, 6, 7, 8 offensive linemen in the Ravens. So we'll just have to see. There is no guarantee Robinson will have that same snap count. It'd probably be less in this finale.
All right, so be ready when Twitter explodes for why isn't Mark Robinson in there, and why is Bush in there?
Right, exactly. Because again, some of the headlines I saw was Robinson starting over Bush, and to a degree that's true because it was Robinson and Spillane on the field, but this was used in that one particular package against certain looks. So just want to understand what the situation was and why Robinson and why Leal was playing.
All right, and I think Mike Tomlin did kind of say because of specific, he did kind of outline it that it was kind of situational specific, right?
Right. And yeah, I'm just doing rough numbers here. The 28 snaps Robinson on the field for that 4-4 defense was used. 26 of them came against the 22 personnel. So 26 of the 28 were used against one receiver sets. Only 2 were used against 2 receiver sets. Bottom line is, unless the Browns go that heavy again, you may not see as much or any of Mark Robinson.
Right.
But it depends on Jack and, Robinson could play in base. I mean, I think he's probably earned the role to play in at least the team's base defense over Devin Bush.
The last line that Mike Tomlin delivered on it, to be blunt, we were stepping into a game that was going to challenge him in a specific area, and that specific area was in line with his skill set. Now, it sounds like a little word salad there, as only Mike Tomlin can do, and so we let him play. That kind of speaks to the specificness of the situational area that he was on the field for.
Yeah, and when Tomlin says that skill set, he's meaning physicality. Dallin Hill, somebody had to meet Patrick Ricard in the hole because he was just killing guys in that first game. He was just destroying Devin Bush and just, Josh Oliver, just really winning the point of attack. You needed some big physical people to match their big physical people. That's why Mark Robinson played.
All right, so if Bush outsnaps Robinson by quite a bit against the Browns, don't get upset. It's probably not any kind of a knock against Mark Robinson. The big aspect with Mark Robinson is during the offseason, along with him and Leal.
Exactly. Well said, Dave. So we'll see how it goes. Robinson could play, but if they're nickel, you're probably not going to see Mark Robinson. You're going to see Spillane and Bush and Jack if he's healthy. If they're in dime, you're going to see Spillane. So that just getting you ready for this is all on deaf ears because we know people will yell if this Robinson's not playing much in this game. But anyway, enough about
it gives us an ability to say, we told you so.
Right, and we love doing that here on the show.
Absolutely. Go ahead, move forward. What else we got from Tomlin? Anything else stick out?
Yeah, those were the big things overall. I thought Tomlin's answer was a bit terse to the question, which I guess was a little, I don't know, I wouldn't have asked the question of, would you rather be a team that clinches early versus a team kind of fighting to get in the way that you're now? And Tomlin said, really? Does it matter? And he just says he wants to be a team on the rise. But I personally like to be a team that's clinching early as opposed to needing 87 things happening the last 2 weeks of the year to try to back into the playoffs.
All I care about is come week 18, end of week 18, that you're in the playoffs and you're on and you are indeed a team on the rise.
Are you saying that? Or are you saying that Tomlin said that?
I that's all I care about.
Yeah. Well, I think you'd rather be the 2 seed
nice
than the 7 seed on the road against the 2 seed.
I'll tell you this. I mean, I obviously don't know what's going to happen. I never thought we'd be having this conversation. But this, I don't know if it's because they were behind the 8 ball and it's been single elimination for them for several weeks now. They are a team on the rise, and especially on the defensive side of football. And look, make no mistake about it, they are winning games exactly like we said that they were going to have to win games before the season started. How many more games can they win? We'll see. But they're going to have to, any games that they do win are going to probably be 19-17 games or 21, 20 to 16 games, right? But they make no mistake about it that these last dating back to, I guess, to about the Atlanta game, this team is on the rise on both sides of the football. Now, I think the defense is a lot more on the rise than the offense, but both sides are on the rise, and they could maybe get into playoffs, and we'll see.
And to Tomlin's point, that's of course where you want to be. You'd rather be a team playing your best football at this time of year as opposed to peaking in November and then dealing with injuries and kind of limping to the finish line. So point well taken there. But of course, you'd rather have a team that isn't fighting for your lives right now and trying to get in the playoffs and those kinds of things. This happened last year where Pittsburgh was playing good football at the end of the year. The last 2 weeks got wins against AFC North opponents, and they get blown up by the Chiefs. So how much should playing your best football really matter? While I agree with you, the defense is certainly playing really well. This offense has at least found an identity. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. They're controlling the clock. And that is certainly helping a defense by limiting their snap counts. Again, Baltimore 50 snaps in this game. I think the game before against the Raiders, kind of a similar story. The Panthers had 43 plays, in part due to the defense making stops and doing a great job. So, of course, credit to them. But the offense is helping by playing good ball control, running the ball, and just kind of forming an identity they lacked throughout the first, 10, 11 weeks of the season.
Right. And I hope I made that clear. I'm not putting the offense on any start. I think the defense has really outplayed the offense and is the reason why they've been able to do what they've been able to do. Offense needs to score more points.
Yeah. That's 29th in points per game.
How do you like that analysis?
That's why you pay us the big bucks.
Right. Score more points. But within that, they have been on the rise. We just need to see that rise now translate into more points.
Yeah, they're not they're kind of crawling, they're kind of walking, they're not running yet, but they're getting there. They're progressing, and by taking care of the football, winning. They've been so good on third down since like the second or first best offense on third down since the bye. By having a more consistent ground game, it's laying the framework for an offense that should be scoring more points. But of course, you're judged by how many points you score. That's the name of the game, and Pittsburgh's still struggling there. But like you said, the defense is also playing extremely well to keep scores down and allow this team to win ugly, win close, win late, but wins nonetheless.
The way I look at it, and I try to think of, because I figured we'd go down this hole, I'd characterize the offense as having perfected below averageness.
That's a bumper sticker if I've ever heard one in my life. No, I think you're 100% right about that.
And we've seen a lot of the same things, right? Split zone, inside zone. I think the timing of the motions has really improved, where sometimes with some of these motions on these jets, you're not really 100% sure who's going to get the ball. And we've talked about this in the past with Ben, specifically last year. Man, it seemed clunky. It seemed like the jet guy was already past Ben by the time. And it might not seem like a big deal. And you know what? I hate to keep going back to Bill Belichick. He had another great answer during a press conference I think it was last week, talking about the effectiveness of jet motions and all like that, especially when preparing for Miami and all like that. There is an art to that. And I think by them having these same guys now for several weeks now, the continuity on the offensive line, the same skill position since Chase Claypool was traded. I think they've really been able to perfect some of this stuff, but I don't think they're going to grow as an offense until they build off of what they have now.
Sure. I think the point that you hit on that's really key, and Mike Tomlin mentioned, but you could really apply it to the whole offense, is health. This team's been really healthy on that side of the football, especially the O-line. The same, well, we got 1 week left, at least in the regular season, so hopefully all clear there. But the same starting five the entire season, the only team that can say that, and even the skill guys. Guys have played through stuff, but they've been available. They've been playing on Sundays. It's Deontay, Pickens, and Harris post-foot injury. And of course, Kenny Pickett's had the concussions, but generally speaking, no, multi-week absences there. Pat Freeman's missed a bit of time, but generally speaking, healthy. So no major losses there. But I love your summation about this team is perfected below average. I think Pittsburgh personifies the old joke of, what do you call the person that graduates medical school with the lowest GPA? A doctor. Like that is the Steelers. They're last in the class, but they got their license and they're a doctor now. That's all that really matters. Just get in essence, getting a victory, as ugly as it is still a victory in the final box score.
Right. I mean, and you would agree. I mean, we're not seeing a whole heck of a lot. I did like down at the goal line there. How many times have we seen the diamond? Use that kind of diamond. Now, will they build off of that? Everybody says, the analysis on that on the TV was everybody in the stadium knew they were going to throw to Pickens. I don't know if that's necessarily true, to be honest with you. Because when they lined up in that, I thought I saw them use that kind of that diamond over there. I wondered if they might either try to run the quick screen over to that side to Najee, or just try to run some combination routes off of that to get someone free real quick.
Yeah, I think there's probably a look. If they get the right look in that 4x1 to that quad side where they can throw it, usually that's almost always going to be a screen pass to Najee with blockers in front. My first thought, honestly, was they're going to run a quarterback draw when they were doing that motion and stuff. I was like, please don't run a quarterback draw here. But I think there's probably a couple components to it. I think, if 4x1 to the quad side, if you get a really good look, if the defense doesn't shift and they're kind of late, maybe you can throw that. If not, then throw the isolation jump ball to George Pickens is probably how that play is constructed.
And as we talked about, at this point now, we need to see more explosive plays. They had 4 the other night against Baltimore. The minimum explosive plays this team needs to have on offense, I believe, is 4 to be able to compete on a weekly basis and keep your offense on the field and in position potentially score. We need some explosive play touchdowns.
Yeah. How many of those have they had this year? Not many, if any. How many? What is the number on that? How many 20+ yard touchdowns do they have this year?
One or two, I think. That's a good question here. The answer is not enough. Not nearly enough. Let me see if I can find that while
I'm trying to think even what those are. I think it'd be easy. I'm still kind of waking up here, so I'm trying to think about what those touchdowns even were going through the George Pickens 24 yards against the Bengals. There's one. And that is, what? It looks like that's the longest touchdown they've had from scrimmage this year. You know what the longest touchdown they've had this year actually is? It's Minka Fitzpatrick's 31-yard pick six in week 1. Their first touchdown is technically their longest.
I'm having problems trying to sort this real quick to get some of the noise out. Let's see. Score. Yes. Touchdown. Yes.
Yeah, it looks like Pickens, because for a while their longest touchdown was like 8 yards.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. 24 yards to Pickens against the Bengals. Yep.
And their next longest is I just lost it. 19-yard run by Najee Harris, also against the Bengals.
How many 15 or more? Probably just those two still, right? 3
Connor
plays.
Hayward, 17.
Against Atlanta. So Atlanta, 2 plays against the Bengals several weeks ago in the second meeting. Najee left in for 19 yards. The Pickett to Pickens for 24 yards, and then the Connor Hayward against the Falcons was 17 yards. That's not enough of those. That's where we need to start seeing some explosiveness end up in the end zone.
Right. Again, Minka Fitzpatrick, 31-yard pick six, second play of the season, has actually been their longest touchdown of the year. Crazy enough. So, but yeah, they're still 29th in points per game. I mean, even over this, win streak, they're scoring. What are they scoring? 16 against Baltimore, 13 against the Raiders, 24 against the Panthers since the bye. I mean, they've had, a 30-point game in that loss to the Bengals, but they've still been held under 25 points in all but one game this year. That loss is to Cincinnati. So still not good enough overall.
Double explosive plays of 40 yards or longer, 3 of them. Obviously, Connor Hayward on a blown coverage was one of them. Trubisky to Pickens down the left side against the Ravens for 42 yards. And just a few weeks ago against the Falcons, the Pickett to Freiermuth, where I think a good 20 of that came after the catch.
Yeah, Deontay's longest play, 37 this year. Still looking for that first touchdown. We are on official Deontay Johnson touchdown watch. One last week to get in the end zone. Otherwise, he'll have the most receptions by a receiver in NFL history without a touchdown. And if he catches 2 passes, he'll have the all-time record, breaking James Wilder's mark in 1985 of 85 receptions with no touchdowns. So looking to see if he gets it's crazy. Just odds alone, you think he'd get in the end zone at some point, but that's not happened.
It was 1 year ago last night that his was his last regular season touchdown reception. I did have one
Really?
in the playoffs against the Chiefs, but as far as regular season touchdown receptions go for Deontay Johnson, it's been 1 year ago. Last night.
Wow. Oh, yeah, that was Ben's last home game, right?
Right.
That's the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's crazy. That's been a year too. God,
Where's time going? Seemed like yesterday.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get off the nostalgia kick here. I think it's probably it from Mike Tomlin. Anything else? No players, I guess, speaking. Players day off yesterday, so they'll be speaking today.
Visitors.
The tryout guys, which I know Steelers fans love. They love reading about the tryout guys. Steelers worked out 2 players yesterday. That is a guy we talked about a while back. One of my biggest overreactions of all time. So a good remembrance about my wrongness here in Thad Moss, the tight end from LSU, Randy Moss's son, who had that great bowl game against, what was it, Clemson, I think. And I was like, this is the guy. And he was not the guy. And so you were definitely more correct there than I ever was. But
something broke up there. What'd you say?
I think we're moving on now to the other tryout guy. Yes, you were the guy calming me down about Thad Moss, and I think ultimately you were right. Undrafted at LSU, was with Washington, spent some time with the Bengals, and now worked out for Pittsburgh yesterday. Kind of has that H-back, Connor Hayward-ish type of mold to him.
It's funny that you just added that because I was going to say he's a poor man's Connor Hayward.
Yeah, which is not a great compliment, I guess.
Right.
Overall. So, try probably again future contracts.
They might sign him. They might sign him.
Yeah, but future's contract. The other guy who's Mike, trying to work on the pronunciation, Panusik. I'm butchering that terribly, I'm sure. But defensive tackle from Michigan State. The transaction log listed him as a guard, so he might be a guy that flipped. He actually worked him out in July. I found an article that you had written that they worked him back out in July. So that's probably looking like a futures contract type of guy.
But what is he?
I guess a guard.
Okay.
I mean, the log says he's an offensive lineman. He played D-tackle in college. That transition is not brand new. People have done that before, so I guess he's flipping over.
What, in the last team that he was with, they working him as a defensive lineman now?
He was with Carolina for a brief time. I didn't check to see where they were at, but on the transaction log, it says it's got a G, unless they mean old school nose guard, but it says guard.
Okay, all right.
But if they sign him, then they'll announce whatever position he is and we'll get more clarification there. But that feels like a futures guy. And again, we'll see if Thad Moss is a futures guy after the season as well.
And because of that, here's why do I call Thad Moss now a poor man's Connor Hayward? Because you look at the measurables and all like that. That's kind of what he is. But where the poor man comes in at is he's probably not anywhere close to being a special teams player that Connor Hayward is. And that's the kind of thing that gets those guys on the roster.
Right. He never tested coming out. He had a foot injury. He's had a weird just football career. 5 high schools, 2 colleges. There's a Canada connection there too, though. I think Canada was recruiting him to NC State because Moss began his career there, and then Moss transferred to LSU, where Canada was the OC in 2017. So there's a connection there. Now, will Canada be here to have that connection? Who the heck knows? But we'll see what happens.
He very well could end up on a futures contract right now because he's probably going to remain on the street here for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, probably. So we'll let you know if those signings become official either now or more likely after the Steelers season ends. All right, Dave, let's go to the all-22 review of this Ravens game, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. We'll start there. Any differing thoughts or any other affirming thoughts on Kenny Pickett as you kind of watch the all-22 again?
First and foremost, I think the offensive line was really, really good in this game overall. Some good push up front and all like that. As far as Pickett's play goes, it just kind of reconfirmed, I think, what we said the other day on the podcast. There is, I think, even something really simple that not simple, but that he did. On that throw to Jaylen Warren over to the right, he's looking over to the left, and he doesn't have time to reset his feet in that. And he whips around right away and makes an on money throw to Jaylen Warren in there. So I think his pocket presence was improved in this game overall. Now his out of pocket presence was really phenomenal. I think you did something unique, and I guess because of his number 8, but the 8 big throws that Kenny Pickett had in that game, and I thought you were on the money on that. I mean, he really did some out of structure stuff that was refreshing to see, with a couple of those throws being the kind of ones that I've been wanting to see down the football field, completed that way. He did that. So, I mean, I think more than anything, the all 22 kind of man, that throw that he made to Sims, how did he get that ball in there? You look at
a great throw.
You look at the end zone at that, man, and you kind of wonder, it's a game of inches for sure. He made that throw. Now there were a couple throws probably he would like to have back in there, but thoroughly impressed with what he did in that game.
Yeah, and again, we understand that 80% of quarterback play is all inside structure, inside the pocket. To throw to Sims, a great example of that. But can you elevate your game by making those plays outside of structure when things break down, using your mobility? And Pickett did that really well. His accuracy on the run was fantastic. Sometimes throwing off platform, being able to square his shoulders and play mechanically sound, but still being on the move and moving the launch point. And one play I didn't even show on that clip 8 was the one to Freiermuth. It was, I think Chuck Clark was blanketing him and he made the catch, but that was a really good throw.
The third down play back to the middle of the field.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. That sounds right. And so that was a good play. So making those plays on the move, being really accurate, comfortable moving both left and right. He was making those plays, not a guy that just goes to his right because he's a right-handed quarterback. Just his accuracy, eyes downfield, scrambling to throw, not scrambling to run. The one thing I saw on the watch back where you can work on is just he still is a bit quick. He drifts in the pocket. He will bail a bit too early, and that does create some issues for his tackles. Even on the touchdown to Najee, which was a great throw and a great play, he's drifting left automatically. That makes Dan Moore's job really hard. It allows Pierre-Paul to have an easier and more upfield angle to Kenny Pickett. There is still some work to do on just overall pocket movement, pocket presence. But beyond that, it was a really strong game by him.
And I think then I said the other day, I think now what I want to see from him now is improved in structure pocket play. We see now he can make plays happen out of structure. Just want to see him be able to do things in the pocket in structure down the field more.
Is there anything specific in terms of what he has to do inside the pocket? Is there any play we thought he missed?
I think there was one or two maybe that he could have maybe instead of bailed on, stepped up into. He's got to start and maybe it's going to come with time, and that's why I keep saying, man, get 6 games into next year and all. Trusting his protection at times.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think. To me, it's maybe less about he doesn't trust his protection, but he's just a mobile quarterback that likes to move. He likes to be on the run. It's comfortable. It's more natural to him. But I think that pocket presence and hanging in a bit longer is even that play to Warren that you're talking about. He probably didn't have to leave the pocket. He was like looking to leave and then kind of stopped himself and threw it back to Jalen on that play. So I think sometimes that internal clock goes off and he says, I have to move, but he doesn't always actually have to move. Mm-hmm. But overall, we're nitpicking. I don't want to take away from him because I thought Pickett was fantastic. And again, making the plays in clutch moments, leading a clutch drive on the road, prime time against the Ravens, season on the line to put that ball in the end zone. I mean, just A+.
Yeah, look, and I think at this point now, like I said, I think you just want to see him, continue on in that progress with the down the field throws and then specifically putting the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Other things on the all-22 offensively in this game, Dave. Offensive line, as you said, did a really good job. I really enjoyed watching James Daniels in this game. Just the progression he made since a very shaky summer. He's really bought in, gotten comfortable with Pat Meyer's rules. Just some of the on-body aggressive sets he was making, anchoring, stalling out, using the hop step to be able to handle bull rushes and power rushes. I thought James Daniels played a really strong game.
And I pointed this out specifically. On that great throw and catch by George Pickens there, man, go back and look at the pass protection and them pass off that in, and it starts with Daniels in there, right? Him passing that, it looks like a choreographed dance move. They know they're passing off this guy to their partner there, and they did such a good job on that inside twist of the tackle twist in there with him, Mason Cole, and Kendrick Green, and then
Kevin Dotson.
I mean Kevin Dotson, and within all that going on to make the play even better. To enhance what's going on over there at right tackle, you have Chooks going kind of a snatch, trap, and bury over there on that side. So I think that play in and of itself, even though you're going to be focusing on to keep the Pickett to Pickens, and Pickens, fantastic catch. Watch and I've got the clip of that, the end zone view up on my Twitter feed there. Just a good snapshot of how well that offensive line played in that game. I think protection wise.
They gave him a lot of time. That was a perfect pocket and a great example. But you actually, I think either the drive before or a couple snaps before, the Ravens ran the same stunt and Pittsburgh was a little messy in picking it up, or Daniels came off a bit early. Cole was a bit late to react, and one of the crasher kind of got up, free up the A gap and got some pressure. And so to see them correct that mistake mid-game when Baltimore tested them again a short time later was maybe the most encouraging part of the whole sequence for me.
Right. It's all about, recognizing and staying on the same levels there too.
Yeah, and they did, and they fixed their mistake from the first time, and so that unit's playing well. I thought Kevin Dotson, the run blocking. I thought Dan Moore's a run blocker. He's I can't quit Dan Moore. Dave. I think he's a good run blocker. I think if he can just figure out how to be more consistent with his punch, with his hands against bull rushes against power, he's going to be a good left tackle. Maybe not a franchise all pro left tackle, but a good left tackle that you can win with. He was moving people in this game.
Yeah, look, he can block down on the inside without issue.
100%. And there was the one play he basically created the whole hold himself. The one that Najee ran for, I think, 11 or 14. I mean, he displaced the defensive tackle, then worked the queen and sealed him off. Najee ran off his inside hip. I mean, he created the entire hole. I know there's still work to do with Dan Moore, but a second-year guy. If you have a chance to get a franchise left tackle, you can have that conversation in the draft. You probably won't, sitting at pick 17 wherever they end up picking. But to me, I'm going to have Dan Moore as my left tackle next year.
Yeah, I think that's going to end up happening. I'm with you. Another thing that stuck out for what Connor Hayward is, and they're asking him to do, he's doing it. He's doing a pretty good job of on those split flow zones and the split flow jets of cutting there. Now, you're not going to ask him to do much more than that, but what he is being asked to do, I think he's 7 times out of 10 he's accomplishing it as a blocker.
Yeah. We talked about that a while back. We said this team has to get this guy to cut instead of trying to stay on his feet on some of these base blocks against bigger people, bigger edge rushers. And so
he's chopping them down.
He is, yeah. And kudos to him for buying in and doing all the little things right now. Any other thoughts here? This offense, again, running backs ran hard. Najee, Jaylen Warren, just a lot of fun to watch. So I just enjoy watching Jaylen. Warren.
He really is. And no disrespect. I mean, because Najee really had a lot of yards after contact in this game. He really ran with a lot of purpose, but man, Jaylen Warren's so fun. He is very fun to watch. And if they can continue to use him in that aspect, use him out of the backfield, and he's really gotten good at pass protection too. I mean,
I think you had the clip of him on Roquan Smith, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great.
He's going up to fight him in the schoolyard. He don't care about the site. He's winning those too. It's hard to see him. He is the best he's the best pass protecting running back on this team right now.
He is, yeah. And Harris is not bad. He struggled to start the year. Maybe the injury played a factor, but Warren, and for a rookie, I mean, when was the last time you saw a rookie? Le'Veon Bell was not this good of a pass protector. His rookie year, he became to me one of the best in football, but not out of the gate. Warren out of the gate is, I don't know where he ranks up league wide, but he's a really good pass protector.
He's very Jones Drew like, really. Yeah. He really is that, and he is the kind of guy, and you don't want to get in a situation where it has to happen, but he could play a full game at running back. I don't think you want to get in that situation. I think it's great that the split that they have going on right now, but he has become everything that you want a running back, I think, to become at this point. He is very, very fun to watch on tape.
There is not one situation where I don't trust him in. He can do anything you need him to do, whether that's catching, blocking, running, whatever it is, special teams. I mean, this guy does it all. Does it with just major gusto. This guy just loves playing football. He's more fun to watch without the ball in his hands as he is with the ball in his hands. Like some of the stuff he does as a blocker on jet sweeps, in pass pro, running down kicks. I mean, he's just a lot of fun.
They need to use. I tell you another guy, and this is I don't know if you heard my terrible take yesterday. Miles Boykin. Look, I know he hasn't touched football a lot, but he's blocking well when he's out there in the running game. Don't be surprised if they reward that on Sunday against the Browns. I'm just telling you right now. You can probably do something with him, sneaking him out some way or what have you. Don't be surprised if they reward Boykin this on Sunday.
Start the season how you ended it. In week 1 against the Bengals, they had that one deep shot to Boykin, never went back to him again. And then let's end the year with a deep shot to Miles Boykin. But yeah, I think you're right. And then as a gunner, he's been fantastic. One last thing on Warren. He was talking with Aditi Kinkabala from CBS, I think she's at now. And I liked Warren's answer whenever she asked him, why'd you sign with Pittsburgh? He said, they offered me the most money. I love an honest answer with that. And hey, money talks. And it's rare that Pittsburgh offers the most money in an undrafted situation, but I'm glad they did.
And he even talked about film room and how really he's not a big film buff at all, but being around Najee, and Najee evidently is a huge film buff. That's kind of imagine him getting better through film study. Yeah. It's
natural talent. So he's the Mark Robinson of the offense. He's just a big bowling ball that runs forward and maybe doesn't know what he doesn't know, but he's got talent and he's got heart, and it all works out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, flipping over to the Steelers defense in this one. What did you see differently, if anything, that made this team better against the run? They weren't perfect against the run. Rarely will that happen against the Ravens team so committed, so good at it. But what did you see to have this team not give up 215 again?
Numbers in the box.
That helps.
That helps. Yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, they were doing a better job defeating blocks.
Agreed. I don't think it was anything magical. At all.
There wasn't anything magical that I went, oh, okay. They had numbers up front. And they were either going, and now a little bit early there, they were trying to, I think Watt in particular, a little bit too much of maybe trying to run around blocks. But, they calmed down on that. But I think it was just a case of having, a more stacked box in this game. And then, just doing a better job at first and second level, defeating blocks and running to the football.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think that was the key. I think that's just the baseline stuff you have to do. I think Mike Tomlin has said it a million times. Whoop blocks, make tackles. They whoop blocks, and they actually missed more tackles in this game than they did in the first one, but they whooped more blocks, and so it kind of all works out positively. I think one component, it wasn't the sole or probably not even the driving reason why the run defense was better, but you saw more backside defenders making plays. Because Baltimore, they run as many gap schemes as any team in football. They pull their guards. You better have backside pursuit on those ones, because whenever the Ravens pull their guards, they gain numbers, they gain gaps to the front side. You need guys who charge hard from the backside. You mentioned Leal making a tackle there. I think
Watt had
Watt was the Watt that had it. Yeah.
I think Watt had one. I think Highsmith almost had one, right? Missed him in the backfield.
I think so, yeah. So you saw, I think, better backside pursuit, better crashing against their gap scheme. And again, that wasn't the number one reason why the run defense was better, but it's a component of it, because those gap schemes are so brutal to deal with. And I thought Pittsburgh did better job crashing down and making some of those plays behind the running back.
Right, and they were pretty much daring them to try to throw the football all night, and that was the game plan.
Yeah, now Andrews made plays, and he was pretty impactful in this game on those benders, those crossers, but he didn't win in the red zone, and didn't have any 50-yard plays on you, and so you can kind of take it overall. Yeah, and I thought our Tyler Wise smartly pointed out a good turning point in that game. I think there was actually a couple of them, but it is hard to argue there, and that was after that long shaking your head after the long kickoff return. You think, man, for sure they're going to give up some points in this situation. They ended up getting not only a three and out in that situation, but out of field goal range as well too. And I think that was around the 9-minute mark or something around there. Once again, after the Steelers had kicked off there, because the last thing that you want to do, I mean, you're already on a short field having to defend some grass in that situation, but to get the 3 and out was just absolutely huge. And really the other thing that kind of stuck out to me, man, that Cam Hayward play on the 3rd and 2 with 5 something left in the game there. And what happens if they pick up the first down in that situation there? Do they get back in field goal range? Are they able to eat more clock? So really 2 aspects of the defense there in the fourth quarter when this team really, really needed it. And then coming off of that last game where they didn't get it done on that final drive, really 2
big stands around the midway point of the fourth quarter and on in that game.
Yeah, I think as Tyler pointed out, don't forget about that third down breakup that Edmonds had to, I think it was Mark Andrews, because if they complete that, they still, it's still fourth down, but Baltimore does attempt a field goal there, and they're in Justin Tucker range, and he probably makes it because he's Justin Tucker, but they not only get the 3 and out, they lose 2 yards, Baltimore does, and are forced to punt. That's huge. And then to your point, I think you had the clip of, it's really fun to watch Cam Hayward turn the dial to 11 and just push Ronnie Stanley back into the backfield and help disrupt that one. I mean, Hayward always plays 100% whenever he, like those big weighty moments, he gets it so much that he's able to just give that extra oomph and just takes over those moments.
Man, the Stanley in that situation got, he said the heck with this, and he got off of Hayward and went out there.
He did. He blocked Highsmith instead. He said, I'm not even trying.
Yeah, he said, the heck with this. I'm out of here. I'll get this other guy running free, and maybe this will help things out here at that point. That's how bad Cam Hayward beat him at that point.
Yeah, he makes people quit their jobs mid-play to go do something else. And I graded up positively. I block Highsmith, coach. Forget about me getting on skates.
And Stanley's a stud when he's healthy, too.
He's a top left tackle when he's been healthy, and he was healthy for this game. So, yeah, those were huge moments there. Absolutely. Anything else defensively that you wanted to talk about from the All-22?
Man, Minkah he can read stuff, can he? He's always in the right place now. Huntley didn't have no business throwing that football back to the middle of the field. And as I stated, if Minkah's not there to get that, Levi Wallace, I think, gets that without a problem, because he's right in that same area there overall. They're probably got to re-sign Edmonds, don't they? Somehow, some way.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I can't see the reason not to do that. Then you have to go expend time, energy, money on finding a replacement that might be worse than Edmonds. I think Edmonds with Minkah is a good pairing. I see no reason to break that up. No reason to go find another option.
I mean, and I know a lot of people are ready to wash their hands of it. And I'm not saying break the bank when it comes to Edmonds here, but and because he still needs to make more plays show up, I think, on the stat sheet. But what he's doing that's not on the stat sheet is enough, along with the familiarity and knowing, the right hand. He's the left hand. He's the left hand that you kind of need, even though it's not a perfect left hand,
Right. I don't want to. This comparison's going to be too strong.
I don't want to gloss him too much here, but he fits what they're trying to do over there.
Right. Again, this comparison is going to be too strong. Edmonds is not this caliber of player, but it's a little bit like Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu, where Minkah's Troy, he's the all-star, but Clark's kind of that steady presence on this team. Again, Edmonds is not as good as Clark was, but it's a little bit where it's a good pairing. They work well with each other. Well, they know what the other guy's doing, and you don't want to break that one up.
You know what you're getting over there with him.
Yeah.
And I think there's some comfort in that.
Right. He's still young. He's going to be, 26 next year. He's not going to cost that much money. I guess probably more than what he cost this year, but $3 million is what Edmonds is going to cost to bring back. I mean, some 2-year deal worth $6 million. I don't know, something like that. I mean, that's
maybe 7 years or something like that. But and look, I'm sure this will get framed as us putting him in the Pro Bowl, but he's not that. But I've come to it that I think they need to re-sign him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game kind of cemented that for me. Understanding that he's kind of at his ceiling. I mean, he's incrementally gotten better. He's scooched forward every year, but what he is right now is fine with me. Mm-hmm. Last thought here on special teams. Again, that punt by Presley Harvin was really key. 49-yard net. Boykin did a great job to beat the vice there to get off of that and make the tackle. I did go back and watch the long kick return of Justice Hill to see what went wrong there. Guys just got to make tackles. I think sometimes Danny Smith has these guys kind of loop and get in different gaps to try to play some games and make plays. It sometimes works against him, but Miles Killebrew was blocked by 4 people on that play, and you had both Derek Watt and Connor Hayward free on block. Neither could make the tackle. Watt was a little bit dicier if he could really make the tackle. He was kind of looping around. Hayward had to make the tackle there. He missed, and if a kick returner can make one guy miss, that's usually going to result in a pretty long return. At least it can, and it did on that play.
I got you.
I thought Baltimore said you have to go back and watch it. Baltimore did kind of a weird thing where they almost were like pulling like the run game. They were pulling linemen around, not linemen, but they were pulling blockers from the left side to the right side on that one. It's kind of a funky setup, so I give them credit. But Hayward is one-on-one. He's got to make the play.
Okay.
All right, Dave, I think that kind of wraps things up pretty well. If there's anything else you want to talk about, feel free. If not, we can get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Yeah, let's do it here. Let me pull up the email machine, sort it real quick.
I'm sure we have a couple here today.
All right, Brian Tolini writes in mailbag. David AK, the transformation and growth of the offensive line should be a lesson to fans on patience and not overreacting to a handful of games. That being said, left guard still seems like a spot to improve upon when it comes to drafting a tackle. If we were to draft one early, do you feel that it could be to push a core for even more so than more? Thanks and prayers for Damar Hamlin, Brian says. Look, I still think that offensive line needs to be addressed at some point in the first 3 rounds of this draft. If you can, we're just looking at where this team might end up at, let's say around, 15 or 16, pending them making the playoffs, it would be a little bit lower than that. I think guards fall. I love guards. You know me. I love guards. I love guards. But I think you can get a guard or a center maybe a little bit lower here. So I guess what I'm getting at here is from where I sit right now, I would not be shocked if they don't take an offensive lineman with the first pick. But in the same breath, I'm not against such a thing happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I said earlier, if you had theoretically a stud franchise left tackle, falling into your laps at whoever Pittsburgh's picking in the first round, whatever number that ends up being, you can consider that. Otherwise, I'm probably good with Dan Moore. I think a core 4 is who he is at right tackle, but I'm not looking to make an immediate change there either. Maybe a developmental guy behind. When it comes to the O-line, the one spot I've continued to talk about and look at is left guard. Dawson's been playing better as of late. I'm still leery of the ups and downs and mental mistakes in his game. So it's left guard is where I'm really centering the starting conversation this year.
And I think you can do something there. And look, I think Mason Cole's played. It'd be nice to get somebody with a little bit of position versatility, maybe.
Yeah, as a backup. Yeah,
as a backup. I still think you can maybe even address if you go interior early in this thing, I think you can still address a tackle position maybe around 5 or whatever,
Oh, sure. There's depth that needs to be addressed. Absolutely. Even if you did nothing with the starters, I mean, your backup linemen are, Trent Scott and Jesse Davis and Kendrick Green and Hassenauer. So there's work to be done there. But in terms of the most weighty, costly picks, I think it's guard for me.
Okay, but I mean, the line, and I think it's been a byproduct of continuity. They have gotten better. There's no 2 ways about it with this offensive line. Night and day kind of difference from where they were going into the season to where they are now.
Absolutely.
Chandler Stroud writes in, Robert Splain, morning guys, Chandler here. Been busy with work and other things, so I've not emailed in a few weeks, but I wanted to quickly discuss Robert Splain's ability to cover running backs or anyone for that matter. If I have to watch Splain try to cover the option routes out of the backfield again, I may be physically sick. Thanks, guys, and happy Wednesday. Say what you want about and we get it. Alex has highlighted, I don't know how many times, certain matchups that don't favor Robert Splain in coverage. But let me tell you this. You go back to that one play in that game against the Ravens where the misdirection attempted screen to, I think it was Likely there. That film study got him there on that play.
100%. Yeah, I get it. I mean, he's never going to be a coverage guy, and them still using him in dime packages, still kind of try to wrap my head around. But they like Spillane. I thought Spillane played a great game overall, and really, Sunday night showed why Spillane sees that continued role in this defense because he's physical, he's a good tackler, he's smart, they trust him. And if you play well against the Ravens, you got a home in Pittsburgh.
Right. And I wouldn't break the bias, Is he
You
going
think
to
he's still
be
a minimum guy? I think he's more than minimum guy.
He might be. He might be. Mike Tomlin sure as hell loves him, doesn't he?
The Steelers love this guy, and they love him and they hate him because every single year they try to replace him. I mean, they trade for Joe Schobert, right before the season starts last year. They signed Miles Jack this year. Every time they've had an opportunity to stick with Spillane, they've looked for somebody else, and then guess who comes back by week 16, week 17? It's old Bob Spillane, and a dude just finds his way to stick in the lineup.
We'll see. Don't be shocked that they bring him back. And Boykin, right, on my terrible take, they got to re-sign him, right?
I think both come back. I think Boykin, and I really believe Spillane comes back because Bush will not be retained. I think they're going to bring Spillane back.
And, you don't have to break the bank on probably either, though. You probably give those two guys the same damn contract, 2 years enough, because I don't think either one should probably be on the roster in 2024. But to give them the kind of money that they might need to at least stay, it might be a 2-year deal, a couple $1.5 million each, per year.
Yeah, there's some flexibility that's offered with that, just, having some options. So, 2 years, $5 million, $6 million.
That might be a good guess. $6 million right around there. So we can expect Chandler Stroud to email us around before March saying, why in the hell did they re-sign Spillane?
Yep.
We get the complaints, Chandler. I mean, we do, but I think Alex has done a good job of laying out why, and the same thing with Edmonds, man. If you want to be able to compete they're going to need a couple of these guys back, I think, because there's so many holes on this team if you don't have guys like that.
Sure. You can't fill them all in one off season, and there's unintended consequences to turning over your whole roster, basically. And plus, not everybody can be a star. You got stars on this team. You need some role players. But I will say this team does have to eventually find like a guy at off-ball linebacker. They've not found that guy. They've gone through so many people. Spillane's not going to be that guy that's here for 5 years as your top dog. So they got to eventually find that player.
And keep your fingers crossed. We'll see what happens with Mark Robinson here. Chris Lookhart writes in, I feel a little uncomfortable asking the question, but I'm curious to know what you fellows think. Do you think that the NFL will have the Bills play the Patriots and then schedule the Bengals game sometime after? Or do you think it just forfeit? Again, I don't like the circumstances of why I have to ask this question, but I'm curious to know what you both believe will happen if the Bills play the Patriots first. Chris, I don't even know how we kind of addressed this at the top of the podcast here. I understand the worry about it, of how it's going to happen, but I'm not going to spend a lot of energy worrying about how they make this happen.
Yeah, I understand at some point you have to talk about the football aspect to it because it can't be ignored forever. I mean, I've thought about it some. I've just kind of read some. There's the Twitter account Football Zebras, which kind of covers all things penalties and officiating and those types of elements. And they said basically that there is no provision in the CBA that allows the NFL to basically just nullify a game and call it no contest or did not play or whatever. But there appears to be some chatter about that. There's some of the reporting and some other sources than that they may try to find a way to do that. So my guess is it'll happen one or two ways. Either they will just basically call the game no contest and not be played, and they'll use winning percentage to determine these things in terms of seedings, or they're going to try to play this. They're going to push the playoffs back, I guess, a week and have a week 19 basically where the wild card weekend should have been. They're going to play the Bills-Bengals game there. That's my guess of the one or two ways this thing's going to go.
All right, we'll see. I'm not expending a lot of energy on it because first and foremost, the Steelers got to win their game.
Right. But not to focus on this too much, but we assume this Bills-Patriots game is going to play Sunday at 1:00, and that's still the expectation.
I don't know what to assume anything with all this right now. If we're going to hear something about it, I would think we'd hear something about it by today.
I mean, that would make sense, but I don't really know. This is such uncharted territory that I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know which way it would go, but I would think that we would have. I think teams would like to know by the end of today what's going to happen. I
mean, if again, the focus is on Damar Hamlin, but if they didn't play the Bills game Sunday against the Patriots, when would they play that one?
Right.
Would they nullify the Bengals game and then play Bills Patriots in a week 19? Is that I don't know.
I don't know either.
All right. We'll get more answers by Friday, hopefully.
Deshaun Campbell writes in, with the O-line playing better and cutting down on their penalties, are you guys still projecting offensive linemen with the first or second pick? I'm sure they will grab at least 2 for depth, but as I watch them grow, I'm starting to think this will still be the starting 5 next season. There's a good chance of that happening, Deshaun, unless they, once again, I think that there's still a possible. Here's the thing. I think you look at those 5, okay, and then you look at what's behind them. They absolutely have to get better depth behind these 5. Even if that they go into the next season and say these are our same 5, the probability factor that all 5 of these guys are going to be able to play nearly every snap like they have this year, next season is it's a rarity.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to upgrade, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Jesse Davis, right? That might be one guy of this group that you re-sign automatically, but beyond that, man, the Trent Scotts, the Kendrick Greens, the J.C. Hassenhauers, you've got to get better there. You absolutely have got to get better. And the way that I believe that the best way to do that is probably in a draft. And so if there is a young stud guard tackle there in the first 2 rounds, I think you take him, Alex.
Yeah, it just depends on a lot of factors. It's always hard to answer these questions, what positions they're going to take. There's so many variables at play, including free agency and what they may or may not address there based on offensive line or other positions of need and what gets filled and what doesn't. And, what does your board look like? It's just so hard to answer those things. I think you're right about this team needing depth, and that maybe that's where the conversation has at least partially shifted towards. You need a Robert Hainsey. Where's the Robert Hainsey of this draft class? Some big tough guy that can play center, can play guard, tackle in a pinch. I mean, that's the kind of guy you're looking for. A backup tackle is going to be important. It's going to be maybe a veteran Joe Hague-like type signing there. I could see. It's just really hard to answer the question of what position they're going to take when we're still so far out, and there's still so many hoops to jump through before we can really. We like to play our Blues Clues in terms of who they're going to draft, and that may be tougher this year, but we like to play that game. So I just really can't answer that right now.
I mean, the top 2 tackles would probably be off the board with the Steelers pick in the first round. Mm-hmm. The best guard might still be on the board. The best center might still be on the board.
Right. Yeah, that seems more likely.
So I think to Deshaun's point here, it would not be surprising if week 1 of the 2023 season, you see the same 5 out there.
Yeah, I still wonder about Dotson. I think these odds of staying have increased, but he's just been a very frustrating player. It's a little like Keller Witherspoon, where it's like, yeah, it's good right now, but is it going to be good for the whole next season? Or are you going to kind of regret it halfway through?
Chris Warren writes in, you guys have done a great job covering Mark Robinson in a fair and reasonable way since training camp through today. I understand that we fans sometimes expect day 3 guys to be starters from day 1, and it isn't realistic. But after watching this guy play significant snaps, the fanboy in me wants to see more. Chris, Alex, be ready. I'm saying, Chris, be ready for what Alex said earlier in the show. He says because he wants to see more. He says, I could see that the guy was confused at times out there, but the speed, the size, the Vince Williams like thumps, get this goon on the field and leave him there. There is, once again, to recap, there is a lot to be excited about with Mark Robinson. On the flip side, there's a lot that needs to happen with him to be on the field all the snaps. And I think Alex did a great job of laying out why you saw Mark Robinson so much against the Ravens and why Chris Warren will be throwing things in his house on Sunday when this team plays the Browns, wondering where Mark Robinson is.
Yeah, that may happen. We'll see how Pittsburgh deploys all their units and the personnel and Miles Jack's health, but would not be surprised to see Robinson take more of a backseat role in this game. But we'll see.
Nick Gooden writes, after watching my version of the game, YouTube highlight clip 8 times. There are the 2 things that stick out. Jalen Warren's ability to stop on a dime and turn upfield is elite. That guy's ankles must be carbon fiber reinforced, so the Steelers going to be able to hold on to both him and Najee for a few years. You think? Number two, personally, I have no clue what the Steelers could do with Matt Canada in the offseason. I know the reports are out there saying he's a dead man walking. I'm not sure that that is what the right move is. Feels like we've gone through so much pain on the offensive end the past 2 or 3 years that we are starting to finally see the light. What would you guys do if you were the Steelers, blah, 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 or what do you think they will do? First and foremost, we've talked a lot about Jalen Warren. He is good after the catch of getting that ball and getting upfield quickly there. The ability to hold on to him, I think it's a 3-year contract with him on those undrafted kids, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He would, after the end of the third one, he would be a restricted free agent and very easily retained. So as long as Jalen Warren keeps playing the way Jalen Warren's playing, I think you're guaranteed to get 3 more seasons out of him on this roster, plain and simple. Number two, I don't know what the hell they're going to do with Matt Canada. I've reached a point where I've been at this point for a couple weeks now. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with Matt Canada.
Yeah, I've really gone back and forth. Obviously, the first 6 weeks, I thought he's gone. No chance he comes back. Then as this team kind of found a bit more traction, I thought, maybe this guy stays. They don't fire coordinators. The offense has gotten better. And then you had Fittipaldo say weeks, everyone called it a report. It wasn't a report, but his strong belief and his, words carry weight that he's gone 100%. This guy's gone. Players know, the whole building knows. I really don't know. I'm with you, Dave. That's my long-winded answer to say I'm just going to wait and see what happens after the season ends.
I will say this, and this is where I'm at on the offense. I said it earlier in the show. They have perfected above averageness. They is that good enough? Technically, no. They need to score more damn points now. Period. And that's that high level analysis that you guys tune in an hour and a half to 2 hours for. But I will not be shocked either way this goes with Matt Canada at this point. And I know that's not what you want to hear. We're supposed to have all this insight and let you guys know what ways are going to happen or how this thing's going to turn out. I don't know how this thing's going to turn out.
I think there's certainly good reason to let him go and to find someone else. There's still a lot of problems with this offense. As you said, they're still the 29th ranked scoring offense, even as they've gotten better. If this is they're better than, this is, still not good overall in terms of the results, but they just don't fire coordinators. And Tomlin had a chance to can him after the bye. Would have been a great time to do it. You got blown out by the Eagles. You got a bye week chance to reset, and he stood by him and has publicly defended him even more than he's probably had to. And they don't make these kinds of moves. So I don't know.
I'm going to hit one last one here. The second part from Bryce here, because this is long. Kenny Shane Pickett, I'm a little more conservative with this than you guys, and we'll wait until 8 or 9 games into the season. I think we've kind of been saying,
Dave just said that since day one, about 6 games into next year.
Yeah, to have a definitive evaluation. What I said after the game, immediately after the game, there were a lot of there were things in that game against the Ravens that I wanted to see that he checked off some boxes with here. Now, Bryce goes on to say, at this point, do you think the lack of pushing the football down the field is more product of play calling, the scheme, or Kenny lacking skills with the deep ball? It could be, it really could be all about, look, you're not going to throw a 38-yard pass down the right side against a cover 3 situation.
Right. And this team wants to still play it safe, not turn the ball over, not make that big mistake. They can't afford it. And so it has made this offense overall more conservative.
Do we need to see the Kenny Pickett cover 2 hole shot?
I don't need to see it. I just, hopefully those things will come with time in terms of making plays downfield. I just need him to right now do what he's been doing, taking care of the football, leading drives when he has to, making the critical plays, and playing how he is. And if he keeps playing the way that he is right now, those deep balls will come. He almost had one to Deontay, who just, just came so close to a, completion. So, that was a good ball that if they convert that one, then we're not having this conversation.
Here's what I said the other day about Pickett too, and about deep ball. I'm having a hard time envisioning him being the Josh Allen, Mahomes, kind of what Burrow's even become. Can he get I have problems envisioning him being the elite home run hitter.
Yeah, he's never going to be that.
Can he be the 38-yard home run hitter? I think he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's, working a West Coast offense, and it's, taken on different shapes and variations over the years, but it's a shorter pass game. It's more rhythmic, more timing, more short, intermediate type stuff. And if he can excel there and get to average in terms of his deep ball, then you can work with that.
I mean, the high side of Ben during his prime, I think Ben was hitting 62, 58, and I'm talking yards past the line of scrimmage in the air.
Yeah, he won't be. You don't think he'll be Ben? I don't think he'll be Ben.
No, I don't think he'll be that. Can he be? Can his top end be 46, 47? I think so, probably. I mean, we've seen that on the college tape. And what I say his longest in college was like, I don't know, 52 or something, 50, 55. And that's really him putting the plums into it, I think.
Putting the plums into it. A phrase we all understand. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
So there is a little bit of concern, some on the deep ball, but if he does the rest of the stuff good, can make plays out of structure and start hitting them cover 2 hole shots and them 38-yard shots down the field, and them shots to Steven Sims like he had in that game. I think he'll be fine from there. But once come get me after about 6 games next year.
Right, that's what you've been. Even before Pickett took a snap, that's basically what you were saying. So I think that's been your philosophy for a long time. That's certainly a fair and good one to have. You throw it to George Pickens enough, he'll make plays. I mean, this offense has to be more vertical. It has to create more splash plays. We just talked about that earlier in the show, no question. But it's not going to necessarily define Pickett. And again, he keeps playing the way he's been playing, in his Ravens game, then everything else will take care of itself.
I think if we had a producer right now, he'd be giving us the high side.
Oh, yeah. I kind of lost. Well, we're not the worst on time today.
What are we? Hour and what?
Hour and a half-ish. I thought we were closer to 2. We had a long pre-production meeting, so.
Okay, let's do one more email here from Pastor Joe Green. He's a long-time emailer.
Yeah.
David Alex, love the site, love the show, best on the interwebs. A question about run success rate. Before the bye, after the bye, last 4 games. Curious about your thoughts. I don't have those numbers in front of me. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that immediately, and hopefully the season's not over. Look, here's the reality. the season could come crashing to the halt on Sunday, or we could be back at this thing getting ready for a wild card game. Pastor Joe, we'll start talking about those numbers here. Maybe by next week here. He says, curious about your thoughts. O-line is finally gelling. Running backs and O-line really seem to be in sync. He says, go Steelers. The run success obviously is better. I don't think maybe the run success is maybe at where I dare say it's at the 55% mark. I don't think it is, but it has been quite better that Mike Tomlin said, Keys, when talking about defending against the Browns coming up here, the Browns did such a good job of getting into 3rd and short situations in that first meeting, between the 2 teams. The Steelers have become that team on offense where other teams are talking about, you know what, the Steelers are good getting in third and manageable situations.
Yep.
And that's kind of a byproduct of the 4 yards in a cloud of dust running game, I think.
No, it's a great point by you. It's a great framing by you. I mean, this team is still averaging, 3.7 yards per carry. So I imagine their success rate numbers probably not among the tops in football, but they're avoiding negative plays. They are staying mostly on schedule. And as you said, they're getting in. You've had a lot of 3rd down situations on Sunday night. I mean, how many 3rd and 1s? Pickett had 2 sneaks, and they had a fullback dive to Watt. Those were all 3rd and 1s that were converted. So probably had 6 or 7 plays at 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 and shorter. And so I think that's a good point. I'll give you one defensively, just to jog my memory about the 4-4 defense that Pittsburgh ran. So defensive success rate against the Ravens when Pittsburgh used their 4-4 defense with Mark Robinson, with DeMarvin Leal, the Ravens had a 30% run success rate. So they were doing nothing against that look.
Good stats there. Joe, look, I think from where we were at the start of this season, where we are, let's throw out the Ritz cracker. I mean, it boy, it really seems like a good tasting cracker right now. But I don't think it's as good as what it could be. And once again, give me some explosive runs, man. That's why it took me so long to come off a high from that 30-something run by Jalen Warren the other night there, man. Those are the things, especially the ones that you see other teams, they go to the end zone from 25 or more yards out. You start adding those things in there, man, it really takes, you start running like that. It really takes, takes the pressure off of a young quarterback in the running game and the passing game. And it really starts opening things up. So it is a better run game. It's probably, we will look back at specifically before the bye, after the bye, last 4 games. Maybe that's something I know Clayton, our stats guy Clayton listens and all. Maybe he can come up with something here fairly soon on run success rates to save me some time here. But thanks for the comment there, Pastor Joe Green.
Now you got me wondering what does Pittsburgh rank? And I know it's going to be very low in terms of number of even just 15-yard touchdown runs this year. What do we think Pittsburgh stacks up across the NFL? It's looking like they're top. They have one. That was the Najee 19. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other teams with just one. I don't know if any team has 0. I can't pull that information off the top here. The Browns lead with 5. The Browns are tied with Dallas, Green Bay, the Jets, and Seattle with 5 rushing touchdowns, 15+ yards.
All right, now back it up a little bit further here. Do runs of 10 yards or more?
The touchdowns or not, or just
runs of 10 yards or more.
All right, let me do that here quickly. Again, Pittsburgh, I think, is kind of middle of the pack on that.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. They have 50 of them.
Okay. Runs of 10 yards or more. Okay. Now drill that down to Steelers only and tell me what the running backs take out the wide receivers in the scrambles.
Okay. So just what's the division of labor of those 50 by Steelers running backs is what you're asking.
Right.
All right. Let me do that with our good friends over at StatHead.
Which, by the way, if you got some Christmas money in your pocket, man, a year subscription to StatHead, and we make absolutely nothing off telling you this. It's valuable advertising, but we spend your money on StatHead, man. If you learn how to use that filter, you can find damn near everything except maybe what was the stat we were looking for the other day?
God, they're getting me PTSD. We found it though. The stat of
we think we
rookie
found it.
Quarterbacks to rookie receivers touchdowns with 2 minutes to go in regulation, because NFL had the stat that Pickett was the 4th. They never said what the other 3 were. We found at least 2. We think we found the 3rd. That was an hour of my life. That I love going through box scores in 1983, finding out. Anyway,
that's what we do.
Anyway, to answer the questions, 4 different Steelers backs have a run of 10+ yards this year. Najee Harris has 19. Jalen Warren has 10. Benny Snell has 2. Anthony McFarland has 1. So Harris, Warren lead with 19 and 10 respectively.
All right. Now go back and sort them by league wide and go to individual player. And where does didn't we do that? And Najee ranks kind of down in the bottom of the league
like
in
20 something
in 10-yard runs amongst running backs. That goes back to kind of why I think running backs are more fungible aspect, and why I was so against not necessarily Najee, the player, but the running back in the first round, man. He's done everything the Steelers have asked him to do, and he's stayed healthy on top of it, and he's running physical, and he's back healthy and all like that. It's just where they're missing the boat on the running game, in my opinion, are more of these explosive runs. And I think it's something that you could see coming with him before they even drafted him.
I feel like I'm the court jester today here for your entertainment, Dave. I don't have the way to do it just for running backs. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but that looks to be around 20th in terms of Najee Harris's 19 carries, 10+ yards. The leader in that category is Nick Chubb, who has 43, who the Steelers will see on Sunday.
All right. Are there any couple undrafted guys higher up in that list?
I'll read off the top running backs here. Nick Chubb, he was 2nd round. Josh Jacobs, 1st round. Derrick Henry, Was he first or second round? What was Henry?
Second round, wasn't he?
Second round, yeah, I think. Miles Sanders, where was Miles Sanders drafted? He was a later second round.
Okay.
Not a first round guy. Barkley, first round. Tony Pollard. So that's was he fifth round? What was Tony Pollard? Fourth round. Aaron Jones, was he second round? Fifth round. Aaron Jones was a fifth round pick. So Dalvin Cook, first round.
All right, so pedigree guys in there, just it's just not what Najee is.
Yeah, I mean, not like you think it would be a 10 plus. I mean, I wonder. I would like to see what it's been since. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing here. One more thing, I promise. Just one more thing. Since like the bye,
down the rabbit hole he goes.
I just want to know.
Goodbye, Alex.
Yeah, yeah. You'll never hear from me again. I just want to know what the because obviously the run game was a mess before the bye. They weren't getting anything. 10 yards felt like a mountain to climb, like it was Everest. So what has it been since the bye? I assume Harris is not top of that category, but I just want to see since week 10. And there were some bye weeks that may mess these numbers up for other backs. Najee
Can't you sort it by games, by game number?
Oh, I think you can. I have the buys pulled up right, or the weeks pulled up right now. Najee Harris has 10, which is still not terribly high on this list, behind Pollard, Jacobs, Chubb, Brian Robinson, Donta Foreman, McCaffrey, Dobbins, Sanders, et cetera, et cetera. So it's actually not working in Harris's favor.
Okay.
Anyway, point is Najee never going to be that big play guy.
Which is what I said right out of shoot.
Yeah, which is really what we said since he was drafted. So I just kind of wasted everybody's time with telling you stuff you already know. But hey, if you're here this long, then you're a glutton for punishment.
But it's another reason to have someone in the backfield like Warren who can deliver those.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's weird though, because Warren's not a 4.4 burner. And what did he run? I mean, Jaylen Warren did not run a great time coming out, but he's just a little bowling ball that's really downhill, really explosive.
Here's the thing is though, he gets to the line, he gets to it, he gets to that hole quicker. You know?
Yeah, he ran a 4.55, but I mean, this guy doesn't run like 4.55 when you put the pads on. So there you go.
But he got that Turner corn the other night.
Yeah, no, I'm saying when you put the pads on, he becomes a more explosive guy than maybe he tested the way that he. It's as you said, it's kind of that Jones-Drew, really squatty, powerful lower half that just is a really good burst.
All right. Okay, shall we get out of here?
Yep, we'll come back on Friday and see where the whole sports world lies.
All right, we'll try to get our buddy Scott, covers the Browns, on and do what we normally do on a Friday show. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar and follow the directions that way. Man, great 90 minutes, Alex. I enjoyed talking that with you there. We will be back on Friday. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.